Love is one of the most powerful and transformative emotions a person can experience. It has the potential to uplift, inspire, and connect, but it also exposes parts of ourselves that we often try to keep hidden. Love creates vulnerability, and with vulnerability comes a sense of exposure that can feel both exhilarating and terrifying. When you love someone deeply, you open the door to the possibility of rejection, disappointment, and loss. For many, this emotional risk is daunting, and it can cause them to pull back even when their feelings are genuine and strong. At its core, vulnerability means letting another person see you for who you truly are, your hopes, fears, insecurities, and dreams. It means tearing down the walls you've built to protect yourself from judgment or pain. But for someone who has been hurt before, or for someone who struggles with their own self-worth, this level of openness can feel like walking a tightrope without a safety net. The closer they get to someone, the more they fear the consequences of that closeness. What if they're not enough? What if they're too much? What if the person they love sees their flaws and decides to walk away? This fear often leads to behaviors that seem contradictory. Instead of leaning into their love, they withdraw. They create space not because they don't care, but because they care too much. They feel the weight of their emotions so deeply that they're unsure how to handle them. In their mind, stepping back can feel like a safer option than facing the vulnerability that comes with expressing how they truly feel. They may think, if I keep my distance, I won't get hurt. If I don't show my love too openly, I can protect myself. For some, this fear of vulnerability is rooted in past experiences. Perhaps they've loved before and been met with heartbreak or betrayal. These experiences leave scars, teaching them that loving deeply comes with consequences. They carry this pain into new relationships. Even when they encounter someone who genuinely cares for them, their instinct becomes one of self-preservation, keeping their emotions in check to avoid revisiting the pain they once endured. The irony is that this very act of self-protection often causes confusion and frustration in the relationship. Their loved one might misinterpret their distance as indifference, when in reality it's a sign of just how much they feel. Cultural and societal expectations also play a role in how vulnerability is perceived. Many people are taught from an early age that showing emotions is a sign of weakness. Men, in particular, are often conditioned to suppress their feelings, to be strong and hold it together. Women, too, may fear being labeled as overly emotional or needy. These ingrained beliefs make it challenging for individuals to embrace the vulnerability that love demands. Instead, they mask their emotions, putting on a facade of indifference or strength, even as their heart aches with love and longing. Vulnerability also challenges the illusion of control that many people cling to. When you love someone, you cannot control how they will respond to your feelings. You cannot guarantee that they will love you back, stay by your side, or meet your expectations. This lack of control can feel unsettling, especially for those who are used to managing their lives with precision and care. Love forces them to relinquish some of that control, to accept that they are stepping into the unknown. For some, this surrender is too difficult, and they respond by withdrawing or retreating into themselves. Even in the healthiest relationships, vulnerability requires trust, a trust that takes time to build. It's the trust that your partner will accept you for who you are, flaws and all. It's the trust that they won't use your vulnerability against you or exploit your openness. For someone who has faced betrayal or rejection in the past, this trust can be difficult to cultivate. They may hold back parts of themselves, not because they don't want to share, but because they're afraid of what might happen if they do. The fear of vulnerability also ties into the fear of change. Love changes people. It challenges their routines, their priorities, and sometimes their sense of identity. For someone who has grown comfortable in their independence or solitude, the idea of allowing another person into their life in a meaningful way can feel overwhelming. They may struggle with balancing their desire for connection with their need for self-preservation. This internal conflict often manifests as mixed signals, moments of closeness followed by moments of distance. Moreover, vulnerability can bring out insecurities that someone may not even realize they have. When you love someone, you naturally want to be your best self for them. But this desire can also highlight areas where you feel inadequate. You may begin to question whether you're deserving of their love, whether you measure up to their expectations, or whether you'll be able to give them what they need. These doubts can become a barrier, preventing you from fully embracing the relationship and expressing your feelings. In the end, the fear of vulnerability is a deeply human experience. It's a reflection of how much love matters and how profoundly it can affect us. For those who love deeply but struggle to show it, their actions are often not a rejection of the other person, but a reflection of their own inner battles. They are torn between their desire to connect and their instinct to protect themselves. Vulnerability is not easy, but it is an essential part of love, a bridge that, when crossed, leads to deeper understanding, connection, and intimacy. Distance in a relationship can often feel confusing and painful, especially when it comes from someone who professes to love you. It's easy to interpret space, silence, or withdrawal as a lack of care or interest, but the reality is often far more complex. Distance doesn't always mean indifference sometimes. It's an expression of internal struggles, self-preservation, or even a way of processing deep emotions. Understanding this dynamic requires a shift in perspective, a willingness to look beyond the surface and see what might be driving their actions. When someone you love creates distance, your first instinct might be to question their feelings for you. Do they still care? Are they pulling away because they've lost interest? But in many cases, distance has little to do with how much they care and everything to do with how they cope with their emotions. Some people retreat not because they feel less, but because they feel too much. Love can be overwhelming, and for those who are not used to navigating such intense emotions, creating space becomes a coping mechanism. Distance can also stem from a fear of vulnerability. Loving someone deeply requires opening up, sharing fears, and showing sides of oneself that are often hidden from the world. For some, this level of exposure feels risky. They may worry about being judged, misunderstood, or even rejected. In their mind, stepping back feels safer than leaning in. They might think, if I keep my distance, I won't get hurt. If I don't get too close, I won't lose myself in the process. For others, distance is a reflection of internal struggles that have nothing to do with the relationship itself. They may be battling stress, self-doubt, or unresolved issues from their past. In these moments, their withdrawal is not a rejection of you, but a way of dealing with their own emotions. They may feel that they need to sort through their thoughts before they can be fully present with you. Unfortunately, their silence can often be misinterpreted as disinterest or neglect, when in reality, it's their way of trying to protect the relationship by not bringing their internal chaos into it. Cultural and social conditioning also plays a role in how people express love and deal with distance. Many people are taught from a young age that showing too much emotion is a sign of weakness. They grow up believing that independence means not needing anyone and that vulnerability makes you appear less capable. These beliefs can lead to behaviors that seem cold or detached, even when their feelings are strong. They may feel love deeply but struggle to express it in ways that feel consistent or reassuring to their partner. The truth is, distance can sometimes be an unspoken cry for help. People who withdraw often hope that someone will notice their silence, reach out, and provide the reassurance they're too afraid to ask for directly. It's a paradox. They pull away to protect themselves, but secretly hope their loved ones will bridge the gap. This dynamic can create a cycle of confusion and frustration in a relationship, with one person interpreting the distance as a lack of care and the other feeling misunderstood for needing space. Sometimes distance is a sign of self-reflection. Love has a way of shining a spotlight on your insecurities, fears, and unresolved wounds. When you love someone deeply, you naturally want to be the best version of yourself for them. But this desire can also lead to self-doubt, questions about whether you're good enough, whether you're capable of meeting their needs, or whether you're deserving of their love. For some, these doubts become so overwhelming that they feel the need to step back and reevaluate themselves before moving forward in the relationship. It's also important to recognize that everyone expresses love differently. For some, love is loud and overt, marked by constant communication, grand gestures, and physical closeness. For others, love is quiet and understated, expressed through acts of service, thoughtful gestures, or simply being present in the background. When someone creates distance, it doesn't necessarily mean they're indifferent. It might mean they're showing love in a way that feels natural to them but is not immediately recognizable to you. Distance can also be a way of testing the strength of the relationship consciously or unconsciously. People who have been hurt in the past may create space to see if their partner will fight for the connection. They may think if they really care, they'll make an effort to close this distance. While this approach can be counterproductive, it often stems from a place of insecurity or a need for reassurance. It's not that they don't care, it's that they need to feel cared for in a way that aligns with their emotional needs. In long-term relationships, distance can sometimes be a response to the ebb and flow of connection. No relationship is immune to periods of disconnection, whether due to external pressures, personal challenges, or the natural shifts that occur over time. During these periods, it's crucial to remember that distance doesn't have to mean the end of the connection. It can be an opportunity to reflect, grow, and strengthen the bond. By approaching the situation with empathy and curiosity, both partners can work to understand what the distance is communicating and how to bridge it. Understanding that distance doesn't always mean indifference is a cornerstone of building healthy, resilient relationships. It requires patience, empathy, and a willingness to look beyond the immediate discomfort of the situation. Rather than jumping to conclusions about someone's feelings, consider the possibility that their distance is a reflection of their own inner struggles, fears, or way of processing love. In these moments, communication becomes essential. Asking questions, expressing your feelings, and seeking clarity can help unravel the complexities of distance and bring both partners closer together. Unresolved emotions have a way of seeping into our actions, our words, and even our silences, often creating a web of mixed signals that confuses not only others, but sometimes ourselves as well. Emotions are powerful, and when they remain unresolved, when we don't process them, face them, or address their roots, they fester. They sit quietly beneath the surface, influencing how we communicate and connect with the people around us. This is particularly evident in relationships where the interplay of feelings and communication is constant. When emotions are left unresolved, they lead to inconsistencies, hesitation, and contradictions that can make others question where they stand with us. Mixed signals are often a reflection of an inner conflict. On one hand, a person may deeply care for someone, want to be close, and crave connection. On the other hand, unresolved feelings, perhaps from past pain, insecurities, or unmet expectations, create a barrier that prevents them from fully opening up. This internal push and pull manifests outwardly as behavior that doesn't align with their words. For example, someone might express love and affection one day only to withdraw or act distant the next. To the recipient of these mixed signals, it feels confusing and hurtful, leaving them unsure of how to respond or what to believe. Unresolved emotions often stem from experiences that left a lasting impact but were never fully dealt with. A breakup, betrayal, or unresolved argument can leave emotional scars that shape how we approach relationships moving forward. Rather than processing these experiences and learning from them, many people bury them, thinking that ignoring the pain will make it go away. However, buried emotions don't disappear, they resurface in unexpected ways. They might cause a person to react defensively to harmless comments, become overly suspicious without cause, or hesitate to express their true feelings for fear of being hurt again. In relationships, unresolved emotions can create a cycle of mixed signals that both partners struggle to navigate. The person sending mixed signals may not even realize they're doing it. They might genuinely believe they're ready to move forward, but their unresolved feelings act as an invisible weight, holding them back. This weight makes it difficult for them to fully commit, to trust, or to be consistent in their actions. Meanwhile, their partner is left trying to piece together the inconsistencies, wondering if the love they feel is reciprocated or if they're simply wasting their time. Insecurity is one of the most common unresolved emotions that leads to mixed signals. When someone feels unsure of their worth or fears they're not good enough, it affects how they show up in relationships. They might overcompensate by being overly attentive one moment, only to retreat the next out of fear that their efforts aren't appreciated. This inconsistency stems not from a lack of care, but from their own internal struggle to believe they're worthy of love and acceptance. Fear is another powerful emotion that contributes to mixed signals. Fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of getting hurt, all of these can cause someone to act in ways that contradict their true feelings. They might genuinely want to be close to someone, but their fear of vulnerability prevents them from taking that step. Instead, they send signals that suggest they're uninterested or unavailable, even when their heart says otherwise. This fear-driven behavior creates confusion not only for their partner, but also for themselves as they grapple with the disconnect between what they want and what they allow themselves to pursue. Mixed signals can also arise from unresolved feelings about past relationships. When someone hasn't fully healed from a previous heartbreak, they may unintentionally carry those emotions into a new relationship. They might compare their current partner to their ex, hold back out of fear of repeating past mistakes, or struggle to trust even when there's no reason to doubt. These unresolved feelings create a barrier to intimacy and consistency, leaving their partner feeling as though they're being punished for someone else's mistakes. Self-awareness is crucial in breaking the cycle of mixed signals. Without it, unresolved emotions continue to dictate behavior, often leading to patterns that repeat across multiple relationships. A person who hasn't addressed their insecurities, for instance, might find themselves pushing away every partner who tries to get close. Similarly, someone who hasn't processed their fear of abandonment might cling too tightly to their partner one day and push them away the next, all in an attempt to protect themselves from the pain they fear. Communication is another key element in addressing mixed signals caused by unresolved emotions. Many people avoid difficult conversations, fearing they'll expose too much or make themselves vulnerable to judgment. However, avoiding these conversations only perpetuates the confusion. By expressing their feelings honestly and openly, they can begin to untangle the web of mixed signals and create clarity for both themselves and their partner. This doesn't mean having all the answers or resolving every emotion overnight, but it does mean being willing to acknowledge the emotions and work through them together. Trust also plays a significant role in breaking the cycle of mixed signals. Trusting oneself to navigate emotions, trusting a partner to provide support, and trusting the relationship to withstand challenges all contribute to greater consistency and authenticity. When trust is lacking, whether it's trust in oneself or in the relationship, it creates doubt that fuels mixed signals. The person sending mixed signals may feel torn between wanting to trust and fearing the vulnerability that trust requires, leading to behavior that reflects this inner turmoil. Ultimately, unresolved emotions are like static in a radio signal. They interfere with the clarity of communication, distorting the message and making it difficult for others to understand what's really being said. Addressing these emotions requires introspection, honesty, and a willingness to face discomfort. It means acknowledging the pain, fear, or insecurity that's been buried and finding healthier ways to cope. While this process isn't easy, it's necessary for building relationships that are rooted in authenticity, consistency, and mutual understanding. By doing the inner work to resolve these emotions, one can break free from the cycle of mixed signals and foster deeper, more meaningful connections. Fear of rejection or losing someone often drives behavior in ways that are difficult to understand, even for the person experiencing it. This fear stems from a deeply human instinct, the need for connection and acceptance. When someone fears rejection or the possibility of losing a loved one, their actions may seem contradictory. They might pull away, act defensively, or even push you away, all while holding an intense desire to stay close. This paradox creates a confusing dynamic in relationships, often leaving the other person uncertain about where they stand. At its core, the fear of rejection is rooted in vulnerability. To love someone deeply is to open yourself up to the possibility of being hurt. And for many people, that possibility feels overwhelming. The fear whispers questions like, what if I'm not enough? What if they find someone better? What if they leave? These thoughts become a mental tug of war, causing a person to hesitate in expressing their true feelings. They may struggle to be fully present in the relationship, not because they care any less, but because the thought of losing you or being rejected is so painful that they try to guard themselves against it. This fear often arises from past experiences. A history of heartbreak, abandonment, or unmet expectations can create emotional scars that linger long after the events themselves. These scars act as a filter through which all new relationships are viewed. Someone who has been rejected in the past may anticipate rejection in the future, even when there's no evidence to support it. This anticipation can lead to preemptive behavior, where they act as though the rejection has already occurred. They may withdraw, avoid vulnerability, or become overly critical, all in an unconscious effort to protect themselves from reliving past pain. When someone fears losing you, they may overcompensate in ways that feel suffocating or overwhelming. They might try too hard to prove their worth, seek constant reassurance, or attempt to control aspects of the relationship out of anxiety. On the surface, this behavior can appear possessive or needy, but beneath it lies a profound insecurity, the belief that they're not deserving of love and that they must fight to keep it. This insecurity doesn't diminish their feelings. In fact, it often reflects just how deeply they care. But it also highlights the importance of addressing these fears to create a healthier dynamic. Conversely, the fear of rejection can also manifest as emotional distancing. Some people believe that if they don't get too close, they won't risk being hurt. They may keep their guard up, avoid expressing their emotions, or act indifferent, all in an attempt to shield themselves from potential pain. This behavior can be especially confusing to their partner, who might interpret the distance as a lack of interest or commitment. In reality, it's often the opposite. The more they fear losing you, the more they try to protect themselves by creating emotional space. The fear of rejection or loss can lead to mixed signals that make relationships challenging to navigate. Someone might express their love and appreciation one day only to withdraw or act cold the next. This inconsistency reflects their internal struggle, a battle between their desire to connect and their fear of being vulnerable. To their partner, this behavior feels confusing and hurtful, but to the person experiencing the fear, it feels like self-preservation. They may not even realize how their actions are being perceived. They're simply reacting to their own insecurities and anxieties. This fear doesn't exist in isolation. It's often reinforced by societal and cultural messages about worthiness, success, and relationships. From a young age, many people are taught to equate rejection with failure, creating a belief system in which being rejected or losing someone reflects a personal inadequacy. This belief fuels the fear, making it even harder to navigate relationships authentically. People may feel pressured to hide their vulnerabilities, avoid difficult conversations, or pretend to be someone they're not, all in an effort to avoid rejection. The fear of rejection or loss can also create a cycle of self-fulfilling behavior. When someone acts out of fear, their actions can inadvertently push their partner away. For instance, constant reassurance seeking can feel exhausting to the other person, while emotional distancing can make them feel unloved. These behaviors intended to protect against rejection or loss often create the very outcomes they're trying to avoid. Breaking this cycle requires self-awareness, communication, and a willingness to confront the underlying fears. Understanding this fear is the first step toward breaking its hold. Recognizing that the fear stems not from the current relationship but from past experiences or internal insecurities allows for a more compassionate perspective. It shifts the focus from blame to understanding, creating space for open dialogue and mutual support. By addressing these fears together, partners can build a stronger foundation of trust and resilience, allowing the relationship to flourish despite the challenges. It's also important to recognize that the fear of rejection or loss is not a sign of weakness, it's a reflection of how much the relationship matters. People fear losing what they value most, and this fear highlights the depth of their feelings. However, it's essential to channel this fear constructively rather than allowing it to dictate behavior. Building self-confidence, fostering healthy communication, and developing emotional resilience are all key to overcoming these fears and creating a more stable, fulfilling relationship. Ultimately, the fear of rejection or losing someone is a deeply human experience, one that speaks to our innate need for connection and belonging. While this fear can be challenging to navigate, it also offers an opportunity for growth. By facing these fears head-on, individuals can learn to trust in their own worth, embrace vulnerability, and build relationships that are grounded in authenticity and mutual respect. This journey requires patience, self-reflection, and a commitment to growth, but the rewards, deeper connections, greater self-confidence, and a stronger sense of security are well worth the effort. Loving in silence is an act of profound vulnerability and complexity, often born out of fear, hesitation, or a deep need to protect one's heart. For some, the intensity of their feelings creates an overwhelming sense of exposure, making it difficult to openly express what they truly feel. This silent love doesn't mean the absence of affection or commitment. It's an unspoken bond, a quiet current of emotion that runs deep beneath the surface. They love, but they do so in the shadows, protecting their hearts while navigating their own insecurities and fears. People who love in silence often do so because they perceive love as a fragile thing, something that once spoken or shared might be shattered. Words carry weight, and the act of confessing love can feel like stepping into the unknown, risking rejection, misunderstanding, or vulnerability. For these individuals, loving in silence is a way to hold on to their feelings without exposing themselves to the perceived dangers of being hurt. It's their way of preserving the purity of their emotions, even if it means withholding them from the object of their affection. For many, this silent love stems from fear of rejection, fear of failure, or even fear of being judged. This fear can be paralyzing, creating a barrier that prevents them from vocalizing their feelings. They might think, what if my love is not reciprocated? What if they see me differently? What if I ruin what we already have? These questions echo in their minds, keeping their emotions locked away. While they long to express their love, their fear holds them back, leaving their feelings to reside in the quiet spaces of their hearts. This type of love is often fueled by a deep sense of respect and admiration for the other person. They might feel that their love is a gift too precious to risk on a moment of uncertainty. They would rather love from a distance than risk damaging the relationship by speaking too soon or in the wrong way. Their silence becomes a form of reverence, a way to honor their feelings without subjecting them to the unpredictable nature of human interaction. In some cases, loving in silence is also a form of self-protection. The more you love, the more vulnerable you become, and for some, that vulnerability feels too risky. They may have been hurt in the past, carrying wounds that make it hard to open up again. Silence then becomes their shield, a way to feel deeply while avoiding the potential pain that comes with expressing those feelings. It's not that they love any less. In fact, their love may be even more intense because of this silence. But their fear of losing control or being hurt keeps them from stepping into the light of full emotional transparency. Silent love can also stem from uncertainty about the other person's feelings. They might question whether their love would be welcomed or reciprocated, and this uncertainty creates hesitation. They fear that speaking their truth could disrupt the delicate balance of their relationship, turning something beautiful into something awkward or painful. In their minds, the silence feels safer, a way to preserve the status quo while still cherishing their emotions. For some, this silent love is an act of selflessness. They may believe that their feelings could burden the other person, so they choose to carry the weight of their love alone. They might think, I don't want to complicate their life, or they seem happy without knowing how I feel. This selfless perspective often comes from a place of deep care and consideration, prioritizing the other person's comfort and happiness over their own desire for expression. Loving in silence can also be influenced by external factors such as cultural expectations, societal norms, or personal insecurities. In some cultures or environments, expressing love openly may be seen as inappropriate or risky, leading individuals to keep their emotions hidden. Similarly, personal insecurities, feelings of inadequacy, fear of being judged, or doubt about one's worth can create internal barriers that make it hard to speak up. These external and internal pressures combine, reinforcing the silence even as the love grows stronger. Despite the challenges, silent love often carries a unique strength and resilience. To love without expectation or validation requires immense emotional endurance. These individuals find ways to express their love indirectly through actions, gestures, or quiet support. They may not say the words, but their love is evident in the way they show up, listen, and care. Their silence becomes their language, a testament to the depth and sincerity of their feelings. However, this silence can also create misunderstandings. The person they love might misinterpret their lack of verbal expression as indifference or disinterest. This disconnect can lead to frustration on both sides, with one person feeling overlooked and the other feeling misunderstood. Navigating this dynamic requires patience and empathy, as well as a willingness to confront the fears and insecurities that keep the silence in place. Loving in silence is not inherently good or bad. It's simply a way of coping with the complexities of human emotion. For some, it's a temporary state, a stepping stone toward greater openness and vulnerability. For others, it's a permanent way of loving shaped by their unique experiences and perspectives. In either case, the love is no less real, no less powerful, and no less meaningful. Understanding silent love requires looking beyond the absence of words to see the actions, intentions, and emotions that lie beneath. It challenges us to recognize that love doesn't always fit neatly into conventional expressions. Sometimes love is quiet, sometimes it's restrained, and sometimes it's invisible to the outside world but burns fiercely within the heart of the one who feels it. Silent love teaches us that love is as much about what we hold within as what we share with others. In the journey of understanding the complexities of love, this speech brings forth a powerful reminder: love, in all its forms, is deeply human, deeply transformative, and deeply revealing. From fear and vulnerability to self-discovery and resilience, the nuances of love challenge us to grow, reflect, and connect on profound levels. Whether expressed loudly or carried in silence, love teaches us about ourselves and others, urging us to navigate its challenges with grace and courage while embracing the lessons it imparts.